Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United from the National League are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike, and on our panel today we Deja Vu with Sarah and Joe. I've got the correct agenda up, and hopefully at least one of them have paid attention to the match this time. We're going to be covering very quickly Boston United at home and look forward to our trip to Dagenham. And by the way, we've got one spot available if someone wants to jump on. I'll be coming on with Seb, who is new. So let's get someone on to help him out. Also, just another little thing. I'm trying out a brand new little gimmick gadget thing, and it's going to remove pauses and filler words. So there might only be about 10 minutes left of this. So let me know how it goes, and especially those watching, because I'm interested in how it does it on the video side, because apparently it chops it all up for me. So we'll see. And hopefully that filler word will go. We love hearing from you. Join the conversations, stay connected, share your thoughts on all the episodes, and just copy us in and tag us at Sutton Podcast on all social medias. The likes, shares and comments have really helped us grow and reach lots of Sutton fans and other people this week. And a big shout out to regular listeners and those who engage always. It's really nice to see. I'm going to jump in. And Joe, how have you been since a few days ago?
Yeah.
I saw you briefly yesterday.
Yes, I've been very good, Mike. I was on comms once again yesterday, which was a joy. But yeah, I've been very good. Gone back to school. Got back to school for the last time. That's a really weird thing to say, and it makes me slightly upset. But we're all, my entire year, trying to get our head around that we're all adults over the next 9 months or 10 months. So that's been the order of play since I saw you. But yes, I'm very good. Thank you.
Yeah, my last first day at school many years ago, and I still don't think I'm an adult. But anyway, Sarah, how have you been?
Well, I'm really sorry to say I did pay attention to the match yesterday. I wish I hadn't, but all right. Thanks, Joe, for reminding me that I'm old enough to be your mum. But I'm good.
Good, eh? So we did have a knowing me, knowing you question. We do have a knowing me, knowing you question. I know you've done your homework. And we're just going to hear the still not claimed as a copyright music. Don't roll your eyes yet, Joe. Wait, you got to wait till it starts.
Knowing me, knowing you, there is something we can do. Knowing me, knowing yes.
Thing is, he's rocking along with it.
You know what? It's the ABBA bit. I quite enjoy the ABBA bit, and then my heart sinks slightly.
It's so bad, it's good.
Exactly. Yeah. It's gone all the way around. That's what I aim for. Don't worry about that. So we'll start with Joe, because it's going to be a lot more recent. What was your first Sutton match, and how has the perception of the club changed since for you?
Well, I had two things. My first match that I properly engaged was Wigan away, Papa John's. And I distinctly remember, the Rochdale game at home before that we were on 3-0, and that Wigan game was the proper ones. But the first game I actually ever attended was the game after the Papa John's final, and that was Leyton Orient at home, which really wasn't a stunner of a game. But for someone who'd followed the club across the season and had been a football fan for many years, but kind of really went to the Prem games because they're way too expensive and all that, I really felt the club. It felt like a really nice atmosphere. It felt like a really family atmosphere, and especially because 14 just felt very welcomed. It was a few days from my 15th birthday, and I just felt like this is a kind of place where I'd want to enjoy football and do that. And I still think that now. I think Sutton are seen now because of our success as a lot, maybe a slightly bigger club than we were 3 years ago. Not much, but still, we had our time. We had our time in the spotlight, and I think we've kind of forced some rivalries slightly. not mentioning any names, the Wombles and Bromley and stuff like that. But I think my perception of the club's pretty much the same. Just going to the game yesterday, still seeing the same people say hello every week. So I say hello to the same people every week. Every game I come to speak to new people, meet new people, and I think it's a great place to do that. And I don't think it's something you'd find at. Well, I mean, I think it's probably more common in non-league because there are less people there, and you see people more often every week. But I think the beauty of it is that you start to build a community. And obviously starting the media team this year, it's a really, really good group of people who I'm now working more closely with, and we all have the same, as much of us as some people maybe aren't Sutton fans initially when they join and doing it full time. I can tell by having conversations with them after the match that they're certainly part of the Amber Army through and through. So it's a really nice thing to see from someone who's only been a real proper going to most matches Sutton fan for about 2-3 years, that now I'm with people around me, some have only been for a few months. I'm starting to feel much more embedded into the community, which is a lovely thing to see.
Perfect. Well, it is interesting on that bit with the can wander out, can sort of have that non-league feel, meet new people, because obviously what happens at the Premier League, where you mentioned you don't get that, is people tend to be in the same seats and you can't go wandering and talking to people, which would be, I'm not going to preempt it, but I'd say that's part of your experience, Sarah, of what was your first match and how the club has changed since then in your perception.
My first match was in November 1995. It was an FA Cup first round replay against Kidderminster Harriers, who would at that point have been where we are now, and we would have been what's now Step 2, which was the Isthmian League then, because it was before the National League North and South layer was put in. It's a brilliant experience, actually. I've been a pretty football crazy for a while, but I'd never even been to a match before, and it was exciting. It's me trotting along, 13 years old, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. It really hasn't changed my perception of the club is the fact that I walked in and instantly felt like this is where I belong. This is where I want to be, and that hasn't changed. It's kind of by the atmosphere, how it kind of like the whole we are one, all together here, and it just felt brilliant. And I was like, I love the FA Cup so much. I can't wait till we get to the first round again. And it was another 13 years before we managed it. So never mind. On penalties. It's brilliant. I guess to answer the second question, changed about my perception of the club since then. I think one thing is that when I first started going, I kind of took for granted because I'd never been to watch another football team. I thought this is what it's like going to football. It took me quite a while to realise we got quite a special club. And a lot of things that we have aren't like what everyone's got. And I've learned over the years not to take that for granted, particularly in recent years where a lot of it's had to change because of what you've been saying, Mike. Growing up in the world and having to follow different rules. And it hasn't taken away what's right at the heart of our club, core values. It hasn't taken away from that at all whatsoever, but it has changed quite a lot about the match day experience. And sometimes I look back with my amber tinted spectacles and I miss some of that, but it's what it is. And I've a million times rather have experienced that success that we have in the last few years than, the old days, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. That your first game, I'm sure, is the same game that I was by someone in the other room to leave because we weren't going to equalise. It was clearly we were going to lose. And I left, I heard the cheer and then realised we'd lost on penalties and never left the game early since. I mean,
you know what, Joe's first game, the one that you were talking about, Leyton Orient, that was the only one, apart from the one COVID ones that no one was allowed to, that was the only game I missed, apart from the birth of my daughter since 2004. And that's because I had COVID.
You didn't miss much. You really didn't miss much.
I know. I was watching it on whatever platform we could watch games on then.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to agree with you. Yeah, you long time before me, but when I can't remember when it was. I think it was a pre-season friendly I think it was against Bromley. We won 3-2 in a pre-season friendly, and that's when I realised this club wasn't like other clubs because I went to other pre-season games over the summer and I went to a few other stadiums, not Prem, but Championship and League 2 and League 1. And I realised, and there were people who I think I'd only seen 2 or 3 times. They were asking me, "How are you, Joe?" And she was just talking to me. And even people, I remember, I think it was, I want to say it was Dundo, but he came up to me, warm up, and he kicked a ball over and, do their shooting practice. He blazed it wide when I was standing behind the goal eating a bacon roll. he just started having a conversation because I don't think he was particularly fussed about the situation because I don't think he was playing, but he was starting having a conversation with me and my mate just about, I think it was about life. It was literally nothing about Sutton. He was just like, you boys here today about the weather, and it was just 2 minutes. I was like, you just don't get that. I still think that the club is our heart. As I arrived at Sutton Station after yesterday's game at the same time, and I've seen him a few times doing the media. And there's no reason, like more visible people in the media team will see every day. There's no need. He was with his family, and he was there. And as I passed the turnstones, he was like, I didn't even look at him because I could tell it was him. But he turned around and said, "You're right, mate." I was like, "You just don't get there anyone else. It's just a nice, feel-good feeling." You know, I mean, the dream of working for your club as obviously we do with the podcast and with the media team. It's just quite a cool thing. I was on the way home on the train. I was like, I'm pretty cool. I've just lost 3-0 and I'm smiling quite a lot. So, it's nothing to do with the club in there, definitely.
Let us know what your first match was at Sutton and how your perception has changed and all your little memories like that. Because that's enough a different way than I thought. It was excellent. I just thought you were going to, we're just much bigger. So thank you both. That was a really, really fun. News. Lean lost today 4-2. Been a fun week. Don't want to go on too much about it. I'm sure everyone's seen it on social media, but we have a bit of a spotlight and just have to remind a lot of people that there is a person at the centre of all of this. So let's just behave ourselves. But me personally, it pointed out that I'm now a raging misogynist, so I'll have to stop women coming on soon. Sarah, sorry about that. I'm at the helm. Not part of, actually steering the destruction of women's football or sport everywhere or the UK. I can't actually remember. I'll have to check back on the details. But good to know. I think there's a badge. I'm not sure if there's any financial comp for it, but wonderful. It's great. I have a question that was raised by and on Facebook. The free tickets. I don't know if you saw them on social media, Sarah, hiding tickets around the borough of Sutton, and you kind of the ticket and come to the Boston match. Did you see it? Did you think anything of it, or no? You haven't
I
seen
didn't
it.
see that actually.
No. Do you think in general about the idea of tickets being sort of? I don't think it was many. I think it was like 4 or 5 or something like that.
I think that's quite fun.
Exactly. There you go.
It will see, like, coming to watch Sutton is a prize. It kind of puts value to it that people might not. I'm a football fans who don't necessarily come to Sutton, because if they come to Sutton all the time, they don't have a season ticket anyway.
Yeah.
Or they might find one for their mate who doesn't normally come with them. It's a great way of getting people hooked. Give people a challenge for a prize, and they'll go for it, even if they don't particularly want that prize.
Yeah. I don't know, Joe, if you've seen all the various comments where people going, "Well, I've paid 20 quid for mine. I've got a season ticket. It's not fair."
I think one of my biggest pleasure activities of an evening is to go through Sutton United comments on Twitter, just because it's just a weird place. Find anything after yesterday's game, after this week, after that. I'm just like, it's just some people. I'm just like, just give it a rest. Just go home, log off, go have a cup of tea, and get up the next day and move on. But
I think what they should do is get involved to do. Have you ever seen that bloke who gives away I think he does more Instagram and TikTok. He gives away watches. And he hides in a random place. So they should do that in Sutton. They sit in a random place and they just sit there and put a timer on, see who finds them quick enough.
Do you know how brilliant that would be? Just like Sarah with like season tickets, and it's like, I'm in a random. I'd love that. Well, I'm going to pitch that. I'm going to say that next match. I'm going to say we should do this. You will get immense reception, and there'll be no controversy. I can guarantee.
Guarantee. I can guarantee someone will be find it controversial.
There'll be some person from some place who will just find a problem saying, people isn't okay anymore.
Yeah, we joke around saying, "Oh, the litter police are going to come because we're hiding it like post box and under a grit bin and stuff." Yeah. Get fined for littering, but people being serious.
Neighbourhood United Football Club.
Yeah. Right, let's for it. Come on. What your thoughts yesterday? Lineup and formation and expectation before the game. He's muted himself.
Muted? I don't know why I keep getting muted. I feel like you're doing it, Mike. I feel like you're trying to sabotage me. I think I had this debate. I thought so. It ended up being a back five, kind of back five. Thought Vaz kind of playing there. I thought Vaz would play kind of wing role, which he ended up kind of doing. I'm surprised Sivy didn't get a go because he was good last week. Didn't think Josh would be on because obviously he had the knock. I'm trying to think who else. I think Simper, Harris, and Barbrick are a very good midfield three, but I think Sidge is getting a little bit overlooked here. I don't know. He had a good start to the season. He just provided backbone, which I feel like we lacked in midfield yesterday, and I'm sure we'll get an opportunity at Dagenham on Tuesday night. But I was a little bit disappointed because I looked at Boston and they're big side. They play long ball, aggressive kind of football, and that aerial presence felt like something we might have needed yesterday. I feel like you go into the game, you see where they are in the league, and it's a game you think we need to get 3 points here if we're trying to realise ambitions. Like, it's still very tight in the table. Like games ago, when we'd come onto the podcast and me and Sarah were talking about AC, we were third, and now we're 13th, which just shows the tightness of the league. And now Boston are up to 17th, and then again 2 wins this week, and we could be right up in and amongst it. So it's all very close. I wasn't unhappy. The change in shape, which was pretty evident from the lineup, unsettled me slightly. I thought it might be Vaz, Addison, and Davis through the middle, and then we're still keeping our formation. But I think I was definite. I was texting people, and I was like, surely we haven't gone 5 back against, and this was my underestimation of the Boston side, but I said, sure we haven't gone 5 back against a team who aren't massively tipped to do well. And it just seemed a bit defensive, and I felt like we were going away from the principles of what we've gone for before against the likes of Forest Green, who are a much better side, so they see them to be. But, team looks okay. Matt Rush wasn't in there. Obviously, the new signing's injured. But, yeah, I don't really know. I'd like to see Jack Sims get a run out, but that's maybe in hindsight after yesterday's game. So, it was.
Sarah, were you a bit surprised as well to see, and especially, I know this is afterwards, where Steve said we changed it to match them up or to go with it, and it's like we're not imposing ourselves on him. As Joe said, we would have expected to get a result from. But what did you think of it before the game?
Well, I didn't get a chance to look at the lineup before the players came out. It was a little bit, I'm not about surprise, because I change it up every week. I don't really get surprised, but I did think, well, this is a bit different. How going to work? I thought we might be missing Josh Coley a bit. Really, to be honest, like I say, I've learned not to be surprised. So I was like, see how this works then. I didn't expect a pushover, but I was definitely thinking, we're ready to bounce back from last week's defeat to Forest Green. And I was hoping for a result.
Yep.
Full of surprises.
Yeah. Just on we'll talk about it later on the prediction league, not one person went for a Sutton loss.
I was hoping for a 2-0 win. That's what I was thinking. But
yeah, one person went for it. I think even their guy that I had on, I can't remember exactly, but I think he hoping for a draw.
I had the Boston BBC Radio Lincolnshire, and I had the Boston United social media admin next to me. They both, so pre-game, they were like, oh, let's get a draw today. A point on the road would be absolutely brilliant. These lot look proper good, and only one loss so far. And doing commentary on it, I had to be somewhat, as is the Sutton MixLR, I'd be somewhat kind of too partisan, but they're in a high outside of the press box. I was like, fair and play to you, because we've been utterly out. I thought the one thing I was actually surprised I didn't say was Charlie Waller at centre-back. That was weird. He's been so good at left-back. And I know Vaz was out wide, but I don't know. Charlie Waller at centre-back, he doesn't, like Tyler French and Hayden Muller. I don't know. The defensive structure just wasn't there. It just felt like unfamiliar. It felt French was pushing really wide. Waller was way too narrow for how he likes to play. And then Muller and Barbrick ended up playing centre-back at times. Vaz was basically, he's meant to be playing left wing-back, but realistically, we know Vaz has got a mind of his own, and fair enough to him. He's an incredibly talented player. And when he came forward, there was a moment where we could score every time. And Ryan Jackson was so high up, it felt like Hayden Muller was the only person who was massively comfortable with what they were doing. And that's not what you want from a defensive line. You're playing so high, like ridiculous. That we want to be attacking. But I just remember saying at least 2 or 3 times in the first 20 minutes, every player, apart from Steve Arnold, is in the Boston half. It got us out. It put us in problems which we didn't need to be in, because people were not in the right position. That's our downfall.
Yeah, was signed as a centre-back who can play at left-back, I think.
But played left-back all season.
That's how it's kind of for us. This is something that someone said to me, that this is, again, in hindsight, towards the end of the match, that the crowd seemed very flat as well. Obviously, we've got the young ones as much as they can, but the crowd seemed very flat. So it's the question of, are we supposed to spark the players? Are they supposed to spark us? Is it a mutual thing? What do you think, Joe? Is it down to us to kind of going, or should we have this naff little thing of them coming over to us before the game and getting everyone going?
I do like them coming over before the game, but we were flat. We were dead quiet, and they were having an absolute party in the Boston away end. And fair play to them, they didn't expect what happened, but we were noticeably quiet. And I'm not saying we're not an army in St James's Park. But we men's this season have been pretty good. A lot more noise, but we were really quiet. And I know we were poor, but I feel like there could have been a bit more given, like in the main stand, which isn't normally a hub of noise. The murmur and just the casual murmur during a game, but there wasn't even any just annoyed moans or groans. It was just dead silent. Like I could hear my voice and people were turning around because I was me and the Indian guy. And I was like, and people listening to the commentary at the game. Like, it's weird. It was a bit of a weird atmosphere. It never felt like anyone apart from the Boston fans were massively comfortable. But I think it was also because I think everyone went into the game thinking, this is a win, surely. Yeah. And it didn't happen, which maybe contributed to the bit of a kind of fan response.
Yeah, do you kind of, it was, again, this isn't criticising anyone in particular, it was just everyone there. Do you feel like we were kind of going, right, come on, entertain us, do something?
Yes and no. I don't think it was like, we're not going to make any noise until you entertain us or anything like that. It just felt like we didn't have much to cheer for. But I know that's not the point of supporting a team, is it? You're supposed to support them. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, they're the ones who are being paid to play football. So they're doing a job. We're doing to watch them. Yeah. And I don't really criticise people for saying that, actually. So I shouldn't really say that. I have to say I was quite grateful to the Boston fans sometimes for doing all the United chants that we weren't doing.
Yes. All in Amber, they're shouting United and the Amber Army. I'm like, dead confusing. This feels really weird, especially
I know, right?
Yeah, we're quiet anyway. We've had a lot better atmosphere this season so far. There was just something wasn't clicking yesterday from everyone. And again, it's not like me moaning saying, well, we need to make noise, because I'm silent in football. I don't ever really join in. So anyone's going to be criticised, it can be me.
There's a lot of psychology involved on both on and off the pitch, isn't there? I mean, the first goal Boston's first goal wasn't that far into the game. The lead up to it, though, it felt like a long time because you could see it coming a mile off. There's a few occasions where Steve Arnold absolutely went missing, and that's not going to give you peace of mind, is it? And there's a lot of stuff like loads of like easy passes between our defence that weren't being picked up, and they were just allowed to trickle over to the opposition. So I think for both them and for the fans, that's going to knock your confidence early on, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Leading up to the goal, did seem to have a lot of slips and mishits and passes that just weren't going to where they weren't, and what you feel that you could see it coming for quite a while. Sarah, you talk us through.
It felt like blooper after blooper, and I don't want to be disrespectful to our, my lovely team who I love to death, my team, but come on, there was some pretty errors being made by pretty much everybody, and there was no sense of cohesion between them. It was like we didn't know each other, And, it was none of that sense of, team kind of reading each other. It was like they'd all forgotten how to play football.
Joe, what were your thoughts on the lead up to the goal and the goal?
It was just a comedy of errors from around everyone. I love Steve Arnold. He's a really good keeper, but I will think one of the funniest things I've ever seen at a match. Just him charging out in that bright pink, outrageous kit. And then just missing the ball completely and just keep running towards the touchline, watching back. You're not moving. You didn't move. You just stood there as he watched Tyler French, Charlie Waller and Hayden Muller try and stop the ball going in the net, which they did. And then I think it's Hayden Muller who clipped the pass to Steve Arnold, who was standing at right back, who just left with the ball and then at right back. And I'd like to apologise for my commentary because I think it ended up being Steve Arnold's walked past the ball. He's not moving. The ball's going in the net. Steve Arnold's got the ball back. He's playing where Ryan Jackson should be, and I've lost the plot. I couldn't quite believe what was happening. Incompetent, to say the least. Made them look ridiculously good when all they were doing was playing pretty simple and pretty not spectacular football. And they
I don't think they even looked that good. We just looked terrible.
No. Jacob Hazel, I think, is a very good number 9, but we made him look like Erling Haaland yesterday. He was getting on the end of every ball and just getting anyone in his way. It looked like he beat them. Jack Sims deserves a run out against Dagenham. Just give Steve a break. No offence to Steve, I do love him, but just, yesterday was not a good day for you, mate. You had a few good saves, but the first and the third were just the lead up to the first and the third just
Yeah.
a little
Well,
bit.
my
nightmares.
favourite bit of that sequence that you said isn't necessarily just the running out. It's just when he had the ball then in the right back position, he got the ball, he had lots of space, and I was like, go on, launch that forward. He knocked it for a throw on. It's like,
Yeah.
forward. Yes, we're not there making decisions on the pitch. We don't know and see everything. So did look quite amusing. But it did spark us, okay? At that point, and especially when you're watching back on the highlights, we had lots and lots of chances at that point. It was a matter of when that ball goes in. Nothing would. There were several good chances. Do you want to talk us through any of those or that period? And
Yeah, there were just lots of blocks. Just felt like we were coming forward. We looked like a real problem. We know Vaz, Ashley Naderson on that with those long balls forward. Tyler French throwing a few for Lewis Simper. Our final ball was awful. Like, I don't like awful's a strong word, but our final ball was absolutely atrocious yesterday. We got into so many good positions on the edge of the area. We beat players. Harris, Vaz, Naderson, three people who I can just distinctly remember being like, shoot or pick one. And then the ball back, they'd either shoot and it'd be blocked, they'd either pull it back and they'd reach no one, or pull it back and it would be completely so mistimed, it would never work. And on commentary, the only one of that front group who I think maybe could hold their head slightly higher after that first half is Will Davis, because Will Davis is obviously there to be in the middle, but he never had the final ball, but he was dropping deep, getting physical, and he was winning the ball and flicking it onto more creative players, but the more creative players just couldn't do anything with it. The chances, they put their bodies on the line for that second half, well, the second part of the first half. Moswick, their experienced centre-back, number 5, he actually played with Steve Morrison at Stevenage in 2008. So they played alongside one another. But he showed why he just dropped out of the EFL with Stevenage a year and a half ago. But he led from the front, and anything that came their way, keeper didn't really have to do much. Either we bottled it or they blocked valiantly, and our decision making just wasn't there. We looked like a team who just didn't know how to put the ball in the back of the net. We looked like a bunch of inexperienced, I don't know, I don't really have an analogy. I was going to say donkeys, but that feels a bit harsh. So,
Really frustrating, wasn't it?
it was very annoying. To be honest.
We had so many chances and we just didn't capitalise on them. I mean, I remember one point where we basically nicked the ball off their keeper and it was an open goal. And it just was that shot. Yeah, that's the one. There was just nothing behind the shot. And that's when the defender cleared it off the line.
Yeah.
It's almost like there was some sort of higher power stopping us scoring, because there was so many chances, just like anything was happening to stop us scoring. But it was us, and we can't deny it. I mean, there's a few balls just going into the box. You need a man to be on the end of those, but there was nobody there. And then we've just squandered a chance, haven't we? It's going crazy, honestly. To be honest, at the end of both halves, it was like that. But
it was a combination of the ball was bad and the fact that the only person in the middle always either seemed to be Davis. It was Davis versus 3 defenders, and then normally it'd be Simper or Harris or someone coming behind. They weren't there, and that was the problem, because then you know, just Will Davis is quite a physical player. You can't beat 3 defenders. The ball was never into him. The ball was into the box. Put the ball in the box. But when I can't remember, I think it was Edwino Vaz. He beat 2 players brilliantly. I was like, Edwino Vaz, he's like 1-on-1, and then he just laid the ball back and just rolled across the box. Simper, Harris, Barbrook, like 4 players just at the back post just watched it sail, and they came up the other end and almost scored. And I'm just like, if we just have that one ball with this, because in other games, Altrincham, York, even Forest Green and Eastleigh, Harris is on the edge of the area there and he's smashing that with everything he's got. Now we just look stagnant, and then all of a sudden it's 3v2 at the back, and that's when the worry set in. But at the end of the first half, we were on top. We were knocking on the door, but we just couldn't put the ball back of the net.
There was a lot of people mentioned there was a penalty shout. I didn't remember it myself. There was a handball. What were your thoughts on that in the first half?
Well, I very rarely comment on refereeing decisions, because they are the ones that qualify best and not me. And they're usually in a better position to see them like that. And most importantly, they don't have that massive bias that I have. I think a lot of people underestimate how much that affects your perception of what's going on. But he may as well have dived for it like the keeper, because he's on the ground and the ball's come through and his hand is up near his head for whatever reason. And you not only see the entire ball hitting his hand, but you hear the slap. And it did change the direction of it very significantly. It was heading towards goal. Would we have scored from it? Well, you can't say. But that was a very obvious opportunity that we then denied. So I think it was quite a clear penalty shout. But what do I know?
I would agree. I've got the bias as well. I don't like to be critical of referees, but that referee got on my nerves yesterday. I had some people saying 6 or 7 pens, and I was like, all right, calm down.
Yeah.
You're not getting 6 pens. One, I can
I've
pretty much
taken one.
clearly say.
I was right behind that though. It was just right in front
You
of
know,
my face.
I think referee wasn't amazing. Didn't particularly wasn't a fan. I think he was very inconsistent. I think Simper got a yellow card for what looked like it looked like a strong challenge. I was, and probably away from the home end, it looked stronger than it was. He got the ball completely. It was an excellent centre midfielder's tackle. But because of the reaction of Gyro, who went down like he'd been shot, and then the moment the referee turned around, got up and started running again. Jeremy said he did the same thing in the second half, but then, got away with a lot yesterday. And that, I think, annoyed our players. And the yellow to Simper maybe gave them a bit of momentum because they had the free kick from that. But it was, free wasn't over himself in glory.
No, and you do that. We come under the basics where Steve was talking about is no point getting angry with the referee because you're just going to not get anything. You've got to be praising the referee. Oh, that was a difficult decision, ref. Oh, I wouldn't like to be in your shoes, ref. Oh, all that kind of crap. We go in 1-0 down. Whinging about the tannoy, saying it was 0-0.
I did.
But as Dan said, always find it stupid. They announce the score of the game you're watching.
Oh, boy.
It's the point of announcing it. But yeah, boo-boo. Who hasn't made a boo-boo? We'll quickly run through the second half. There was an injury. At first, it was like, oh, was he faking it? Blah, but it went on for a bit long. And you're like, God, I hope he's actually all right. And then he gets up and he runs around again. Well, he wasn't concussed. So what was the need for all that? But that did add on to an inordinate amount of injury time. But what did you make without? I don't know, Joe, if you do get replays, but what did you make, Sarah, of the free kick retake? And they messed up the free kick, and then they had to take it again for the second goal. What did you think of that situation?
Well, I don't really know. Again, like I say, I tend not to judge refereeing decisions. I wasn't really clear on what had actually happened there. To be honest, I think that goal was probably the least embarrassing of the three. It was a decent free kick, but I didn't really know what to make of that, to be honest. So I'm not the best person to answer that question.
Well, they did score from it, and it was a good stop from Steve, but everyone did kind of stop to look at, oh, he's made a great save there. Oh, damn, I should be running in after
Nice
that.
Lovely ball watching.
What did you think of the retaking? Did you see why it was retaken?
The referee just said, I asked you to wait till I whistled. They tried to take it quickly.
Oh.
It was a bit like us we've tried it a few times with Josh Coley running off the shoulder of the wall, and they just didn't play to the whistle, which I said on commentary, they can't use that again because we covered it. And then I said, well,
They did.
Boston have scored. They didn't use it again, but we just stopped defending and let them score. Brilliant save from Steve Arnold, but good finish. But yeah, the referee didn't blow his whistle and they just took a free kick. So it was a fair enough decision.
Obviously, there's lots of different things at play there, but I think if someone does that and then they mess up, you kind of, well, no. If they score from it, you go, no, I said go back and wait for the whistle. But if they do it and try and take advantage and it fails, you just go, tough for you. But
Here we go.
Sarah's not going to like this one either because the offside goal. So, Joe, we'll start with you. I had actually started walking around at this point, so I didn't actually see it. I heard the cheer, so I didn't actually see it. So I've watched it back. But I had a lot of people saying it shouldn't have been given because it was deflected by one of our players and there was a whistle, blah, blah, blah. So when I've watched it back, that clearly is not a deflection. That was a tackle. And the whistle thing, I did see a couple of players look over at the linesman and go, oh, it's offside. What were your thoughts on it?
Right, and I'm going to address this once because I know there's people who are listening who have been in my DM saying there was a whistle, stop being such a pacifist. There was no whistle. I asked on the Sutton Media group chat, the moment you have the replay, confirm if there was or wasn't a whistle. There was no whistle from the referee. I've checked for replays, I've slowed it down, I've gone on pitch time, there was no whistle. Now, Simper makes an excellent tackle. Unfortunately, the guy who's offside, he's coming back from offside. Simper's the last one who's touched it. It's really clear no one else touched it because there's no one in the vicinity, and he's played it through to Hazel. As much as it pains me to say it, it's completely on our players. You play to the whistle. Now, I don't play football. I play football at lunch and I play football with my mates. But even I know you play until you hear that referee's whistle. There was no whistle and we just stopped playing. Steve Arnold could have saved that. It was a good finish, but Steve Arnold definitely could have saved that. We didn't defend him and he just curled it into the back of the net. The referee's flag was for the offside of the player who won the ball. Now, that was, I think, erroneous because the ball came from us, but the referee went over and said, referee had a much better view of it, saw it didn't take a touch, and that means he's not offside because technically, although it was a slide tackle from Simper, we passed the ball to them. So a whistle, it's on us. And Steve said it in his post-match. I was there, and he said, look, we didn't place the whistle, was the thing he saw. And Charlie Waller said it as well. He was like, it's all on us. We didn't do that right. And they were complaining. And I think I do get, it was a mistake from the linesman to put his flag up because he wasn't offside, which probably is going to throw a defender, because if you see an offside flag, you think your game stopped, whatever happens after this is gone. But push comes to shove, it's a mistake from our back line, one of many in the day.
Sarah, what were your thoughts on it?
It doesn't matter if the linesman puts the flag up, does it? It's the referee's whistle that you're playing to. And if I was a Boston fan, I'd have said, well, that was actually a really good decision by the ref there. I think actually that's probably the most clear-cut lesson to be learned for our players from that game. You can't just cool the engines like that. You've got to wait for the whistle. I thought it was offside. Everyone around me thought it was offside. But, he had a chat about it, and now it's clear. I've watched that one back as well, and it was the right decision. So that's, in a way, it's good that we've got that lesson to be learned, isn't it? We're already losing 2-0. We weren't going to win that game, were we?
No. But yeah, it's also, it proves what you said earlier, the massive, massive bias you got. Oh, it was a deflection off our player. No, it wasn't. It was a clear, definite movement to pass that ball, not pass the ball, but the ball went off of that player. So, Sarah, what were your thoughts? We were well beaten. Partly, you could say that we've caused some of that ourselves. Do you think that we've already been found out, or is this just going to be a bad day?
No, I don't think we have, because we look different every game. I don't think, in the wider context of the season, I don't think it's a terrible thing to have happened. It's probably Steve Morrison's worst game in charge for us, actually. He won't be feeling satisfied with that. But his attitude is very much, don't look back once you've learned your lessons. And there are so many lessons to be learned from this game. And I think every team's going to have one dud game in the season. Every team is. So I think having it at the beginning of September is a lot better than having it in, mid-December at Stockport. Where it's kind of, you've got time to learn your lessons. You've got time to make the changes that you need to make. This team isn't used to each other yet. A lot of them don't have as much experience as a lot of other sides in the league. They are willing to learn, and they can do that from this. So I think having this little wake-up call so early in the season, when apart from obviously the Forest Green game, we got points from every game so far. When you have a disappointing performance like that, you've got to bounce back. You've got to hold your head up. You've got to walk on. You've got to look to the future. And we've got time to do that because it's only the start of September. So bring it on. Rest of the season. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Joe, what were your thoughts after that?
I feel like Steve's first match tells you everything you need to know, as Sarah said. I feel like he's really, I think he's just a very frank manager, and he'll be honest when things don't go right. I completely agree with Sarah said. Better get it out of the way now. I think Tuesday will be a bit of a not exercise in just bouncing back, but also I think this will be more of a bounce back than Forest Green. Like, we lost against Forest Green. Forest Green are an incredibly good side. We've got that power long throw from Bentosa. Got an exceptional, realistically, both their goals. I'm looking back on them. Amazing long throw, which not many of the other teams in the league have, and a ridiculous, when I say ridiculous, I've seen it all over Twitter, that ball forward from their keeper to split our defence open in the 89th minute is ridiculous. Brilliant finish. We didn't close them down good enough, and we should have scored others in that game. But yesterday, it wasn't good enough. And people like Stockport away, I saw things on Twitter, people like worst performance in recent years. Did you see last season? Did you see? We lost 8-0. We lost 8-0 in the middle of Stockport, and we got
to League Two champions, not to Boston United. No, you're right.
We played all these matches where we were much worse, and yesterday defence was poor, but coming forward we were a promising outfit. So I think hopefully Dagenham players who haven't made their mark, hopefully Harry Ransom, Jack Sims, Odaluzi, who has been out for a while, and Boating comes back in, Josh, and just a new outlook maybe going into December, because it's a difficult run of games. I don't think there's any easy game in this league as we're starting to find, because you think Boston's an easy game, you think Tamworth's an easy game. Well, they both weren't at all. There are two worst performances this season, if you ask me, and that's even Forest Green we lost. And obviously,
didn't I say that earlier, Mike?
There are other reasons. So it's just hopefully we rebound at Dagenham, because the people who are like, oh, it's just. I saw someone say sack the board, which just ruined my day.
There's always one, isn't there?
Well, there was more. So I'm going to chuck out some words and stuff that I've picked up from
here we
various social
go.
media. You
Yes.
guys can pick up any of the ones you want. Disjointed, little communication, both fair. Feel like we're suffering from that late goal to Forest Green, possibly fair. You're playing on their mind, Joe, playing on their mind. And we've never.
Not me. I'm not getting into this.
You were shaking your
I'm
head
not
when I
getting
said
into
it.
this.
But we've never played that
I'm
way
agreeing.
before. So perhaps they were unused to the system, which is something that we could. But then it starts getting more interesting. The defence is awful. Attackers are toothless. And the worst part is the midfield doesn't even exist.
Just please. What's the point in having an account if you're saying stuff like that? We've got some of the best midfielders in the league. Lewis Simper is way too good for this level. Attack is toothless. We got Adreno. It just really riles me up. I just makes
I think
no
you're trying
sense.
to wind Joe up, aren't you, Mike?
Well, I haven't even started yet. That's only the first batch.
Keep going.
Embarrassing. We need an experienced defender, midfielder, and striker. Which
Just
does
one, eh?
kind of say, hang on, that's a little bit at odds with
Hey!
the pressing game that we want to play. And people were talking about relegation, getting rid of Steve, and actually, this isn't so funny. Shouting abuse at Steve on the way out. He's embarrassing, he's useless, and all the rest of it. So, Sarah, did you want to pick any of those, or are you just happy with laughing and shaking your head?
I don't want to comment on those, to be honest.
Okay.
They're a load of rubbish. The first two were fair.
Joe?
And I think we were a little bit embarrassing at times, but we can learn from that. If someone embarrasses themselves, you don't just carry on laughing at them, do you? You let them pick themselves up again.
Well, I don't know. I've done it. I've played it attention to death, and everyone's still laughing at me about it.
That's
I don't know about that. Joe, did you want to come back on any of those, or have you had enough?
It's just rubbish, man. It's just utter rubbish. I just can't stand it. Your team's lost, and I get being angry, but just the last thing that anyone needs is just they know they were rubbish. You can tell by the way they react, and I'm not gonna even. Everyone's like, I think someone DM me because they obviously do the stuff and the commentary there. They DM me and said, as part of that club, you should be ashamed of your performance today. I was like, sorry, mate, our shift at left back was really poor. You see that third goal? That was all me. I'm sat in the stand. Don't come talking about me. It's not about the players. Let them do their job. They are a talented group. They are. I don't know. I'm not responding because I'm just going to get more
my kind of feeling is, hang on, when this all turns and does well, I'm not sure you have the right to be claiming it.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but then they'll say, well, it's because I gave them those harsh words.
Constant feedback. That's all it is.
But bless Laura Behan, she gave me something positive. She gets it. She knows what I want, and she picked out a positive. And now I'm going to say there were no injuries. We got through that. No injuries.
positive, that's good.
Minutes, 100 minutes of football, no injuries. So thank you, bless you, Laura, because I needed that.
I was going to reply to it. I said my positive. It didn't rain because I didn't bring a coat and I was quite cold, so I didn't want to because I knew that I was traveling home on the train, so I was slightly concerned I was going to be soaked. So that's my positive today.
Fair enough. Well, we're going to do very quickly the good, the bad, and the funny. Obviously, there's the. Still need to get like Aussie Bear Whacker, but he doesn't say Whacker. So annoying. So, Joe, give me your good to start off with.
Give me the beaming smile of the Boston press. You know what? It actually made my day. They were like, well, that was fun. And they just looked like they had a brilliant day out in London. So fair enough to them. They were lovely people, really nice. And even though they could tell I was having a torrid time trying to commentate on that game. When their third goal went in, the Boston press guy smiled at me and said, sorry, mate, you're having a miserable time of it. So I had to put the microphone down, but it got fair play to them because they are the guys in social media admin and the commentator from BBC Radio Lincolnshire are lovely people. So I wish them all the best for the season.
Excellent. Sarah, what was your good? It can be anything.
Boston has a nice kit. I really like their kit. It's gorgeous, wasn't it?
Do you know the official colour? Do you know the official name for the colour of their kit?
I do not.
Raspberry. The raspberry kit. And then, because I said purple, and Tony pointed to me and said, actually, no, on their website it's raspberry. So if everyone enjoyed it, that's a raspberry colour.
Lovely. This magenta socks. I've never seen a football kit that colour before. It's very nice.
I did say that I liked that kit to someone as well. Sarah, what was your bad?
This is like when someone offers you a tin of Quality Street and you're like, no, except they're not chocolate, they're shit, and you have to choose one. I'm going to go with that handball because I was like, come on. That's what I'm picking.
I feel we might need to explore this when someone offers you a box of Quality Street and it's all shit. That sounds like it's happened.
It
Joe,
happened to me. I can imagine the match. Yesterday's match was like a box of shit chocolate.
yeah, no, we got the analogy. It's just it's light.
Right, the bad. I will go for the 10 minutes of added time. Just having to say that, just seeing that, because I knew that the injury would take time. I thought it'd be 6 or 7. I was like, okay, that's fine enough. Just seeing 10 made me just want to crawl inside a ball and weep.
So the beginning of last season, wasn't it? 20 minutes.
I was behind the dugouts, and when that went up, I literally involuntarily shouted, "What have we ever done to you?"
Sorry, who was that?
And Joe, I think I can't remember which way around it is. Joe, what was funny?
Funny. I could go for the comments, but we've already rinsed that. We'll go for, what did I find funny? I found Charlie Waller's face when he had to come out for the man of the match. Like, he'd just been swamped in an awful defensive performance and then have to hold a trophy. I don't know why we do a man of the match for when we lose 3-0, because it's like you've been soaked by rain, you've had to pick a chocolate out of Sarah's shit box of chocolates, and he just stood there, glum, with his family and his family sponsoring the match and the kids in front of him. Well done, like, someone shaking his hand like, good performance. No, it wasn't a good performance. We were awful. We conceded 3 goals. And he just looked so dejected. And I was like, yeah, that's great.
See, I don't know why I've not done it, and I know it's sponsors and all the rest of it, but I desperately going, right, who didn't come on? Let's choose one of the subs who didn't come
Yeah,
on.
just get Jack Sims, who hasn't played a minute yet. Oh, well done, mate.
Yeah. Sarah, what was funny for you?
Well, I don't like to laugh at my own side, but that really was comedy defending for the first goal.
Steve Arnold,
You saw it coming at the state mark. You just had a feeling. No, it was more than a feeling. You knew, 100% knew that we were going to concede a goal, a really stupid goal. And when it happened, it almost put us out of our misery, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I was standing there laughing, not because I found it amusing, but it was just that disbelieving laugh that you do when you just like, what are we doing?
Perfect. Right. Let us know what your good bad and the funny moments were. We are going to move on to the free Q preview, and we spoke to Jeff earlier, who sports Dagenham Redbridge, and he's the podcast host of Once a Dagger, Always a Dagger. I have done the AI on this as well, so you two can give me some early feedback on how it sounds and looks. And when this finishes, you're automatically on mute, so don't forget that. We are joined by Jeff for our free Q preview. Bit of a jealousy going on with all his walls behind him, and I only get my little flag. But we're going to talk about the Dagenham match, not my jealousy. And also, Jeff hosts the Once a Dagger, Always a Dagger podcast. So thanks for joining us this morning, Jeff. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with Dagenham Redbridge and a bit more about the podcast? You were just telling me how you got started.
Well, my history is, I go back longer than I care to remember, actually. I think when I was about 8, I went over there to watch a game between the TV All-Stars and the Entertainers 11 on a Sunday. I remember Sean Connery was in the programme. I don't know if he played. He probably didn't. Tommy Steele. I'm going back a long way. And the game finished something like 10-7 or 11-5, something ridiculous. So I obviously thought as a young lad that was good. And I started going after that was about 1962, I think, at a push. So I've been going ever since. Season ticket holder for donkey's years. Go to all the home games, obviously, most of the away ones, probably about 75% of the away ones. So it's been quite a long time. I first went to Sutton, I think, in about 1968, an amateur cup tie. We lost, of course. That was a bit. Your ground's changed a bit since then, I've got to say. About 3 or 4 years ago, some guys who do another Dagenham Redbridge podcast called A Game of Header and Volleys. It's a really good one as well. I say as well, that's assuming mine's any good. They invited me to come on and just talk about Dagenham. So I did, quite enjoyed it. And then I thought, I've got a lot of spare time. And as you can see, a lot of rubbish on the wall here. I thought I might as well try and make use of it. So I started doing my own one. I try and chat about, I originally started doing it, I chatted about memories and stuff like that and going back donkey's years. But then I thought a lot of the fans are probably not as ancient as me. So I try now to mix the current stuff and often refer back to previous years. And just that's it, really. So it's been quite good fun. I bring it out once a month and gets a few people listening to it, and I enjoy doing it, to be honest.
Perfect. So for the season that we're in, what were your hopes and expectations coming into the season, and how has it gone so far?
That's a good question. I did a podcast about 2 or 3 months ago in the close season. It was called New Owners, New Signings, New Season, Optimism. That was the gist of it. And it's not been quite like that, I'll be honest. But we had new owners in the summer. They've come in and everything they've done has been pretty good. They got a sporting director in, which I think the club had been desperate for because our scouting system was a bit back of a fag packet, I think. But that's been sort of firmed up, professionalised. We've made a lot of new signings, probably about, for the first team, 8, 9, 10-ish, and then 5 young lads, because they're trying to set up a sort of an academy equivalent, I suppose you'd call it. So it's trying to do the two things at once. So we signed quite a few players. We already had the basis, I think, of a solid team, but we were just lacking in goals. And this season, it's been a bit disappointing because we've played, 7 now? We've only won 1, but we've drawn 4, lost a couple. And those 4... we can look back and say we could have won those, or we could have lost them, I suppose, as well. But we had enough of the play and the possession to have got more points, put it that way. So we'd say it's a bit disappointing. We look solid still. We're neat and tidy. We look coached. We knock it around. Sometimes it's a bit frustrating. We seem to play backwards and sideways, but I think every team in the National League does that now. And if you're an old timer like me, you think football's not as good as it was in the 70s and 80s. But that's a different story, a different argument. But we're lacking in goals up front. We've scored 7 in 7. That tells its own story. We had the same problem last year. We've got new strikers in this year. They did come in a little bit injured, and that was accepted, that they were going to take time. And they're not quite firing on all cylinders yet, it's probably fair to say. So that's sort of how the season's gone. It's disappointing if you look at it just as it is. But I still think I'm clinging on to this. There's room for optimism.
Perfect. You've touched on some of the next question is what are the main sort of strengths and weaknesses at the moment, and who is it that we should be looking out for?
I think the strength is we are quite a solid team. We've got a good goalkeeper. He's arguably, I would say, the best shot stopper in the league. He's definitely the best off the ground. I think he's actually one of the best long passers in the National League, and he's a goalkeeper. So he's solid. The centre-back pairing are solid. Full-back, so midfield, keep the ball. Again, I think quite solid. Fans might think we're lacking a ball-playing midfielder. We did sign one about a week ago from Chesterfield on loan, Akinsola. Came on the previous game for half, looked good, played really well yesterday. And I'd say he'd be one that is worth watching. Except about a minute from the end, he hobbled off, and I can't see him playing Tuesday, to be quite honest. But the player you'll be watching will be Dion Pereira. He's a winger, cuts inside. Not just a good player, because he's obviously a good player, but he's great to watch. Yeah, and he was our best player yesterday at Maidenhead. I think they certainly had 2, maybe 3 bookings where he's just beaten the man, and they just pulled him back freshly, and they got booked. And he's the player who will do things for us. But we have got other good players. Josh Reese, midfield's always going to get a few goals. We have got other decent players. It's just that Dion Pereira will be the one that I just think your manager will have half an eye on. Teams seem to be doubling and tripling up on him, but he can still get past them all. He's a good player. We've got him on loan from Luton for the whole year. So he'll be a player you'll be watching, I think.
We had Dion start of last season.
Okay.
He was with us, and I think he went in January only because Steve needed to make a lot of changes in the team, and that was a nice, easy one to. He was on loan from Luton. He's a nice guy, so he'll have all that and something to prove against the club he was at. So,
as I say, he's a great player. One of my favourite players of the last definitely few years, just to watch. Basically, He did one yesterday where he went down the wing at Maidenhead and he was twisting and turning, and the bloke. He stopped so quickly and turned that the bloke actually went sliding past him. It was a classic to see. If it's on the highlights, it was really good. It was like to see next Tuesday.
So what kind of game do you think it's going to pan out to be? Is it going to be open and free, attacking, or is it going to be a bit tight and cagey with teams who are desperate?
Any chance it's going to be open and free. I've got to be honest. I'm not sure how Sutton are playing, but no, we're not at this stage in the team's development. I'll say that. Manager speak there. We're not open and free. We'll be solid. Will be solid, and we'll be looking to catch on the break or temp. I think it's all about temp for Dagenham. It's all about tempo and tackling and getting stuck in and harrying and pressing, all the current buzzwords that you hear in football that drive me out the wall. But I think it's always been like that anyway. But there you go. It's just now it's a counter press and the Gegen press, isn't it? But I think it'll be a tight game. It'll probably be 1-0 either side or 1-1.
Well, I'm going to press you for that actual prediction.
I'll have to go 1-1 again, I'm afraid. I think we've had 3 already. We only scored 2, I think. We've scored 2 a couple of times. Oh, let's go mad. Let's go 2-1 Daggers. Because you didn't have the best result yesterday, did you?
No, it wasn't the greatest. It came on the back of a defeat last week as well.
I normally do a little three-way accumulator on a Saturday, and I was going to put Sutton in that, partly because I hate Boston for obvious reasons, and partly because I thought that was a home win, but it didn't quite work out like that.
Never put on Sutton against the expected weaker teams. We have this nice little thing of we give them gifts, very friendly, very keen to help out our friends.
Now, the teams always have these little traits, and if they're doing okay, we get to the position where we move up the league, just get on the edge of the playoffs, and then we lose that game.
Yeah, to keep these traditions up, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Right, don't forget, guys, check out the Always a Dagger podcast, and you can hear some memories and top of your head. But if there's any memories of Sutton one, you can let us know, and I'll buzz them out as well. Introduce you to a few of our guys who can remember lots of matches against Dagenham and Bridge. It's a whole different story.
I'll just give you one quick one to finish. So everyone who's been around a little bit, and I'll just say the words Ricky Kid.
Yeah.
Just one quick thing. I did an episode of the greatest ever Dagenham team, and he was one of the.
Oh, excellent. Lovely.
Yeah,
yes, definitely. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Pleasure. Cheers.
Dion, I didn't know he was at Dagenham.
Well, he didn't know he was with us. He'd been with us, and I was like, oh, okay.
Happens with lone players, isn't it? You can't.
One of our biggest mistakes of letting go. I can
No,
guarantee.
he was great, wasn't he?
So good whenever he played.
I think
That game against Horsham, he was electric. That's all I remember.
Oh, he's amazing.
They've also
Yeah.
got Christian. They've got Christian and Gessen as well. I think
Yeah.
he's injured, but they've got Christian and Gessen, who was
Oh,
a
yeah.
rock for us when we didn't have anyone in the field at the start of last season. Well, not a rock, but he was there, which
Yeah.
was more than some other people.
Leon leaving was just a matter of convincing. He was, I think, up in January, or there was a break clause in January, and Steve wanted to get people in. So I think it wasn't anything against Dion. It was just space to move people around a little bit. I don't know, but I think that's what I remember him saying. I'm also convinced I said Billy to that bloke at some point in there. His name wasn't Billy, it was Jeff. So I don't know where the hell that came from. What do you guys think about the game? Are we going to be a little bit tighter? How's it going to go? Start with you, Gio. Go on.
I think we'll go at them like miles an hour. I think the boys will be very eager to prove that Saturday was a blip. Can will be in their face. I think to counteract the likes of Pereira, I think we're going to have to be aggressive while also being defensively solid, which is something we seem to have. We were still aggressive, but the press wasn't there yesterday, whereas it was against Forest Green, but we didn't have defensive stability. Yesterday, we didn't have the aggressive press or the defensive stability. And I think the one I'd rather have is defensive stability. I'd rather have a 0-3-0 loss. So if we can, I think Harry Ransom might provide that. He's more of a stay back and defend kind of Muller or French, or, we'll see what happens with that. But people haven't really been given a chance. Nana Boating's fallen out of favour slightly. Josh come back from a knock. Hope Jaden Harris plays, because I think on his day he could change the game. He didn't really perform on Saturday. Will Davis to start, because I think he makes a massive difference up front. I think, again, like I said against Eastleigh, if we play well, I think we can most definitely get a result. But it feels like if we play poorly, the way we play, we get punished properly for it. It doesn't feel like. I feel like as much as we had a few draws so far, I feel like it will be a very win-loss kind of season. If you win properly, and it won't be many close encounters, especially at home. Whereas away, I think if you lose, you'll get thumped. Or if we win, it'll be a properly well-deserved win.
Perfect. What do you think about the game on Tuesday?
Well, they've had a bollocking, weren't they? It's just the kind of squad where you've got to really earn your place in the side, because there's so much squad rotation. So if you're always someone to cover you, basically. So if you're not earning your place, then you can't expect to keep it. Can't anyway, can you? I think Joe's right. They're going to really go for it, because we have got something to prove now. I was thinking earlier, maybe it'd be a little bit like the Wealdstone game, a bit kind of gritty, but it's so hard to predict, because yesterday turned out so different from how most of us expected. There's other games this season that have not gone how we expected them to go. So it's really hard to say, isn't it? But I think a draw is probably a fair prediction, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well, on that word predictions, it looks all right today. Prediction League top 10. I'm still clinging into it. I think that we're on 62 games in a row now. I haven't got the result right, which is actually amazing. I don't know what I'm actually going to do when I get one right. It's going to be devastating. And there is the code for anyone who wants to play along. Loads of links on social media, so just click on any of them as well. But you said a draw. What kind of draw are you going with? 0-0, 1-1, 2-2, 6-6? Come on.
Oh, you want me to actually commit to a proper prediction?
Yeah. People put money on this. They don't.
Where?
I'm going with 0. I just want to stop conceding stupid goals.
Fair enough. Joe, you don't need to say gamble aware. I think me saying I've got it wrong 62 games in a row is probably enough for people to go, they're not going to do it. But what's your prediction, Joe?
3-1.
1 to Sutton. Beautiful. Well, I'm going to obviously go with 2-1. It's going to stay 2-1 until we actually get that result.
It's so
It
good.
was the first time I ever went to Dagenham and Redbridge, because I'm not that old.
Well, if I change from 2-1, you can almost guarantee what the score's going to be on the next match. So at least everyone can win money by going, it's never going to be 2-1. Let's do that. That wraps up this episode. Always appreciate your... Come on, Jay, say it.
I'm never going to say it. You know,
You could
I'm
say
not
it.
saying it.
Okay.
I refuse to say.
I'll make it into a GIF. Appreciate your attention and feedback. Lots of questions for you to get involved with today. What was your first game and how has your perception of the club changed? The answers, what you think about the term given away, I think that's a great idea, to be honest. Also, what you feel about knee-jerk reactions. Not the best in the world when we win, and we're not the worst in the world when we lose. There's lots of space in the middle of those two things. Follow, like, and share at Sutton Podcast on social medias. Just give us the thumbs up on YouTube and give a review. Let me know how the sound and the audio goes with this new editor thing. We are back on Wednesday with Seb and hopefully one more. If you want to get involved, drop me a message and we'll get you in. Questions sent in. And as always, thank you to our sponsors, Lucky Star Gin. Big thank you to today's panel, Sarah and Joe. And thank you to the listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Sutton Podcast. Take care and we will catch up soon. Bye-bye.
United! 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 United!